Alright guys, we had a complaint come in, AC not working, blowing hot. First thing I want to do is talk about verifying the complaint. So right here, right now, you'll notice I have the fan all the way on high. I have it just set to the regular dash, all the way on cold. You'll notice down here, AC is on. And over here, I have it set to recirculate. That's max AC setting. The difference between a standard AC is whether or not the air is being drawn in from the outside or whether or not the air is recirculating through the cab. So I have everything set to max end. We'll come over here on the dash panel. You'll see my heat coming out is almost 100 degrees, so it's definitely blowing hot. So we're gonna have to take a look, figure out what's going on. Right now at 100 degrees, very, very, very likely that our heater is actually on, since it's blowing hotter than outside air, but we'll verify that as we get closer to it. Now, when I'm saying that our heat's on, there's a couple different options. Either the heater block can be controlled by valves out by the engine, or two, our actuator door. This right here controls our actuator door, which is basically a big door that opens and closes the direction of air, whether the air goes through the heater block or whether the air goes through the evaporator. So that's a very good cause. We'll definitely look into that as we get going. However, for now, let's finish our walk around inspection. What we're going to do is we're going to head outside. I'm going to look and see if our compressor clutch is actually cycling. If it's not, then very good possibility we have an issue with either how much freon's in the system, something along those lines. It's going to get kind of loud out there, so I won't do a whole lot of talking, and when I do, I'll try to yell. Alright, let's go take a look. Right there in the center of the screen, you can see the compressor clutch. Right here's our whole compressor. Right at the front, right there, where it's not moving, that's because the compressor clutch is not engaged. Same temperature on the inlet and outlet lines. I don't think this compressor clutch is working at all. So we definitely have an issue there. Could be low freon, could be a lot of different things. One of our pressure switches is not working right. Just giving a quick walk around inspection. There's always a bunch of stuff you need to check. In fact, well, let's shut the truck off first. Whenever you're doing an AC inspection, there are a ton of things you need to check as far as walk-around inspection goes. For example, this belt right here, make sure it's good and tight. Make sure it's not worn down, split, missing, anything like that. As I said earlier, this clutch up here was not engaging. You would see it actually start to spin. It would click and spin. There's a few different things. Oh, sorry, my phone wasn't angled right. This clutch up here. There's a few different things up here that can cause this compressor clutch not to engage. One of the things is electronic control. So our switches, we have binary or trinary switches that control when this clutch actually turns on and turns off. They are not engaging. So basically what that means is either we have low pressure or high pressure in a switch and it's not actually clicking over and allowing voltage to get over here. Or two, we got a split wire or something along those lines. So that'll definitely be something we're looking at as well. However, typically if we didn't already pretty much have a diagnostic on this, which we'll get to doing pressure checks, but if we didn't have a diagnostic on this, we'll climb up here on the side of the truck. Let's see here. See right down in through that grate right there? That's your blend air door. That's your outside air versus your inside air right down inside that grate. If you can see little bit farther back up in there. So on this gray section right here, that's actually your inlet air filter. It's kind of hard to see on the video because it's not wanting to focus on the background, but from what I can tell, it looks to be pretty clean. And then this black section right here is your door. So to get down in there, basically you got to pull this cover off right here, and you have access to all that stuff inside. This right here is your actuator. So this is what actually moves that door inside of there, that black door. Turns it, basically determining whether or not the air is going to come from the outside in, or if it's just going to recirculate inside the cab itself. We know that is potentially an issue. And we'll look into it more here in a little bit. But right now, we don't have a compressor cycling, which is more an issue than what that is. Alright, so I am going to look right away. One thing I didn't look to see, to verify, was whether or not our module had power. And we're not going to be able to see that because it's all analog. So sometimes you get lights up on this thing. They'll actually light up. You'll be able to see whether or not they actually have power at least. This is more or less your smart box. So this is the control head. This is what has pretty much everything in it, your computer wise, stuff like that. Down in here underneath the dash panel on some trucks, or right outside the cab inside the cowl on other trucks, is where you're going to kind of find all your main smart boxes, your evaporators, your linear power modules, stuff like that. But this is the control head. So this is more or less the main command. It directly communicates with your body controller, so on and so forth. Since this one's all analog, we don't know whether or not it has power, so I'll probably check the fuses here real quick before I move on. Alright, once we check the fuses, we are then going to check our pressures. So let me get in here, I'll go check a fuse real quick, and then we'll get back into checking our pressures. Alright guys, like I said, we're going to be checking the fuses. What I've done is I've gotten the diagram out, got into the fuse box. It looks to me like we're going to be checking the main cab HVAC fuse, 40 amp fuse. We got a couple sleeper small fuses, 20 amp fuses over here. We'll go ahead and check them just because we're working on the AC, but that's not going to be the issue. And then let's see, right there is our actually head control. So that's the control head. That's the power to that thing right there. So let's go ahead and get these checked out here real quick, and then we'll move on. Now, obviously, as always, you never, ever, ever want to just visually inspect a fuse. So I'm going to get the multimeter out here, actually check this thing, find me a good ground, and see what type of voltage we got coming in. $12 volts on that side, 12 volts on that side. Get over here to these small ones. Third row, 2 from the right, 12 volts. On the output side, I got 12 volts. 4 on the far right. Got 12 volts on the left side, and on the output side, 12 volts. So, I have good voltage getting through all my relays here. That's not a problem. We know everything's getting power to it. We got other issues. So next we're gonna probably go check our static pressure on our AC system and move on from there. All right. Oh, one more thing before I move on. Just because we have voltage at our fuses does not mean that we have voltage down to the control head or out to the compressor or something like that. All we know is we have voltage here. So we don't really want to assume all voltage is good. It's just to check the voltage out at the back of the control head. That's pretty invasive. I got to tear apart most of the dash. So I'm not going to do that yet. I'm just doing kind of the visual inspection stuff, the quick check stuff, running through the fuses. I might as well check my static pressure well before I go tear apart an entire dash and check for voltage at the back of the control head. So that's our next step. I'll get the gauges out and we'll go from there. Alright guys, this is the machine we're going to be using. It's probably a $3,000 machine. It actually vacuums Freon out, recycles the Freon, all that fun stuff, charges it back up. Most people don't have that. They have a simple set of gauges, which is just fine. You can definitely run with a simple set of gauges and just a standard bathroom scale to measure how much Freon you're putting in. We have it, so we're going to use it. A lot of shops will have something near to like this, if not exactly like this. Now, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to be checking static pressures, which means I'm going to need these right here. This is my high side connection fitting. This is my low side connection fitting. We're going to be plugging them into the system. Now, these fittings can be a lot of places. On this truck right here, they're right up here by the condenser, so right here's my high side. This cap just spins off right here. And then my low side, I believe, yep, right there. So I'll go ahead and spin that one off. And there we go. Now we have access to the truck. Like I said, they can be a lot of places. They can be mounted up here on the receiver dryer a lot of times. They'll be sticking right out of the receiver dryer. Sometimes they're in high pressure or low pressure lines that run across the front of the engine. Sometimes they can be mounted down in here. If you got an accumulator down in here, they can be down inside of there. I've even seen them before on trucks that have bunk heaters. They'll be clear back in here underneath the truck. That is pretty dang rare that they're back there, but I have seen it before. I don't know why. I don't even remember what type of truck that was, but it took me a little bit to find it. All right, so to put these on, pretty simple. They pull back. That's how you put them on. You pull this back, push it down on the knob. Low to low, high to high. Pretty hard to mess it up. There you go. Give it a little tug, make sure it doesn't come loose. Do the same thing with the high side. Our high side doesn't want to go on. A little bit rusty. That'll happen sometimes. We'll see if I can get it on. Otherwise, I may have to pause the video and clean it up just so we can get it on there. Oh, somebody has the valve all the way shut or open. So, if I turn that red knob, this red knob was spun all the way in, which is actually opening the valve. That's why it wouldn't go on there. So I opened it back, or closed it back up by spinning it counterclockwise. Now it should just snap right on. And it did. Alright, so now I'm going to turn these valves back clockwise. That's going to open them back up. Do so on the low side as well. You can use just a regular set of gauges for this. It's nothing special. Come over here. Here's my low side pressure gauge. Here's my high side pressure gauge. Sitting at about 10, so we're obviously way low on pressure. This machine has no Freon in it. When you're at 0 and 0, there's a few different options you can take. Some shops will actually have you charge them with Freon using the same machine we just had. I do not recommend that, because if you have a major leak, you're just going to vent all of that Freon into the atmosphere. And whether or not you disagree or agree with atmosphere, there is another thing that happens, and that's cost of Freon. You're just burning it, you're wasting it. So we're going to hook up a nitrogen tank and we're going to go that route. But chances are we have a pretty dang major leak, which is why I'm going to go with the nitrogen route. Other options, you could use a UV dye, inject a UV dye into it. or you can, like I said, charge it up with Freon. But we're going to do a bubble check using nitrogen, being we're completely out. So I'll go get all that stuff and we'll go from there.